Hello and welcome to the Software Development Room. My name is Nicole and I'm going to be your host for today's panel. I would like to begin by gratefully acknowledging that Science World is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We will start today with a quick introduction from our amazing group of mentors, followed by a hosted discussion. If you have questions for the mentors, please feel free to put those in the chat at any time. Our technician today is Dawn, who will be monitoring the chat. If you have any technical issues, they'd be more than happy to assist. We ask that you keep comments in the chat and questions section respectful and relevant to the topics being discussed. So now it is time to meet our mentors.
Hello.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask that all of you take a moment to introduce yourself, your job title, and tell us something you love about your job. So Shivani, I see you came up first. Let's start there.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. I'm Shivani. I'm a software development manager at Best Buy Canada. I have my master's in computer science, and I've been in the software industry for around 14 years, and I absolutely love it. The most rewarding part about my job, I would say, is to help people grow and achieve their goals. I think that's the most fulfilling thing to see, people uh, get what they want and achieve great things in life. I'm extremely excited to be a part of this event and look forward for a great discussion. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Elaine, you're next in my line.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Elaine. I work at Safe Software. And I guess I'm still more relatively new. I've been a software developer for just 2 years now. And my favorite part about my job is getting to learn new things every day. Every day there's a new challenge, and it's kind of fun to, problem solve all day.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Wendy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Wendy. I'm a software development manager at a company called Staffbase. And so what that means is, similar to Shivani, I help engineers kind of one-on-one to work towards their professional development goals. And I also work with engineering teams to figure out what we should be building, how we want to build it, how we're going to build it on time, that type of thing. And my favorite part about my job, right now, I'm really enjoying kind of working with my team and sort of setting our team goals and sort of brainstorming ideas with them, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And then sort of supporting the team and achieving those things and sort of watching them succeed. That's my favorite thing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all and welcome to this discussion. So we're going to open this up to questions in the chat. If you have any burning questions for our mentors, just pop those in there and we will ask them. So maybe to get started, let's start with something. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of your career. I would love to hear how you got started in what you're doing today. So now I'm going to go backwards. Wendy, how'd you get started?
Okay. How I got started. My first programming, so I started out as a software developer first before I transitioned into a management role. And how I got into software development was, I think, my first programming experience was in high school. I took a sort of a computer, I think it was called infotech class at the time. And so that was my first experience with programming, and I just fell in love with it. I kept taking kind of computer classes as my electives in high school. And then I went on to get my computer engineering degree in university. And then, after that, I worked in the industry as a software developer. I was mostly in the games industry for about 8 years. But I also took some time off, and then I decided I would try web development when I came back. So it's a little different. Went back to school for that, actually. And then just a couple of years ago, kind of transitioned into a management role. So I don't code as much anymore, although I miss it. But what I do now is still really rewarding. So yeah, that's how I got to where I am today.
Awesome. Thank you. Elaine, how did you get started?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a later start, I guess. After high school, I actually went into business. So I got my bachelor in business administration, and then I worked at a tech company helping them manage their vendors on contractors. And so a lot of kind of my role was in chatting with seeing, what companies or what individuals were a good fit for which projects. And so the dev leads would be like, okay, we want, someone who is skilled in like, I don't know, this language or that framework. And whenever, the companies or people I was vetting would ask me more about it, I would have like no clue. And I always felt like a little bit inadequate at my job because I didn't know all of these like technical terms and stuff. And so after a while, kind of feeling pretty inadequate at my job, I thought, you know what, I'm going to learn it. And so I found an evening course at like a local college. And it was like introduction to web development, which was, really relatable because my company mostly did web development. And yeah, I took the course and I was super surprised that I actually really enjoyed it. And then I was even more surprised because I thought I might actually be really good at it. And so, yeah, so that sparked my interest. And then I think what kind of pushed me over the edge to like quit my job and go back to school was like kind of, um, I like got to see every day kind of like the salary that they were making or like the hourly wage. And then I was just thinking, oh man, this is like, I could be getting paid a lot more doing something I probably would enjoy more. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Awesome. Thank you. And Shivani, how did you get started?
I think I would say my journey is very similar to Wendy's, but a funny story. When I was in high school, I think we didn't have very many options of, what subjects you would take. So I think the option was you either take biology or you take computer science class. So I knew that in the biology class, they were going to dissect a mouse at some point or a rat. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I told my parents, I'm not going to take that class. I'll take the computers class. And in fact, when I started, joining the class, I actually started liking it. And that's when I went and did my computer engineering and did my master's in computer science. And then I started my career as a software developer as well, so slowly, moving from a software to a senior developer. And as I grew in my career, I really loved, talking to people, understanding what their problem was, translating that back to the dev team. And uh, that kind of interested me. And then slowly I, moved to something where I had to talk to people, helping them understand what the problem is or helping them grow, and then, eventually move into the management side. And I absolutely love it. The great part is that I'm in touch with my technical side, and I get to, do what I love, helping people, talking to them, helping them grow, understanding what their problems are, and sharing with, everyone else as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let's think about that whole path that you took to get there. What are some skills that you think really contributed to your career path here? And maybe not necessarily those like academic focused skills, any type of skills that maybe helped you get to where you are today. And you all look like you're thinking, so I'm going to let you volunteer who wants to answer first.
It's such a good question. I'll share what comes to mind first. I think definitely like communicating skills. I think one skill that really served me in my career path was because sometimes you're dealing with stuff that can be kind of technical or hard to, they're hard problems. And so I think working on how I can explain kind of hard things to whoever I'm talking to, whether they're like technical or not technical, was like, I think an important skill to learn. So being able to explain things, either like know your audience, know who you're talking with. If they're technical people, then go ahead and use all the technical language. But if you're talking with, often as an engineer, you might be talking with someone who's in sales or someone who's more like on the business side of the company. And they might not know those same terms. So you kind of have to adjust how you communicate with them. but still in a way that like they understand and makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
One thing that comes to my mind is maybe try to be curious or try to question everything. I think that helps you to get to that a logic or reasoning behind why something is like this. So always be curious, always try to know more about anything. Just don't take anything on face value, right? I think that really helps, and trying to understand the logic. Always like, why is this problem like this? How can I break it down into smaller pieces, and asking questions constantly, even yourself. Why is it like this? What if I do it like this? What if I do it like that? That I think that has helped me to understand things better, question them, and then take them in better, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah. Elaine.
Yeah, I would have to also go with communication, as Wendy said. I was kind of surprised at how much I needed to talk to other people. Like in my mind, when before I started, I kind of imagined like coding to be me in my own little corner just doing my thing, but it really couldn't be farther from the truth. There's so many times where I have to ask for help or I have to get clarification, whether it is from someone who is not technical, but also someone who also wrote the code, and I kind of need to ask them like, well, why did you do it that way instead of that way? So yeah, and I think it really helped that I came from a business background, so I already had some of those communication skills, like had that foundation and kind of improved on that already.
Awesome. Yeah. And that actually kind of relates to my next question, your answer there. What is something about the industry that really surprised you when you got into it? You all look like you're thinking again, so I'm going to let you offer up your hands. Besides, yeah, like I definitely would have had this vision of you're just kind of working by yourself on your computer. And so for sure, it's surprising that more people are involved in your day to day.
I'll share something. So my first job, I thought when I finished school, I thought like, oh, I gotta like dress a certain way. Like I gotta be more professional. I should get a pantsuit is what I thought. And no, I did not need a pantsuit. Like I think what surprised me was like how I don't know if the right word is casual, but like you can show up as who you are, like, I mean, might vary company to company, but I would say at least in like the software development world, like we kind of have the luxury of like wearing what you want to wear and showing up as yourself. And I think also there's like a lot of opportunities to socialize. I think that was another thing I wasn't expecting. Like there's a lot of things you can do to get to know your coworkers, and sometimes there's lunchtime activities and like after work activities that you can join. So I think in my mind when I first started work, I thought, oh, it's going to be super professional, and yeah, I got to wear a suit, I'm going to get an office, and it's just going to be like in the TV shows and stuff. But it's actually quite kind of light. It can be a light and sort of fun at the same time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll add to that. And this is 12 to 13 years ago, right? We were all going into office, and I think the best part about being in software industry is you can actually work from home. So we have been working from home long before it actually became a reality. So that was surprising, right? A few days, I just did not want to go to work because of some reasons. I could actually stay home and work from home. So that was a nice surprise, I would say. In addition to what Wendy said, again, we all have that perception when we start that job, oh, it's going to be super formal and this and that. I think a software industry is way more casual and more fun than what it looks like, and a lot of collaboration, I would say. Yeah.
Awesome. Elaine, did you have anything else besides that more social aspect?
Yeah. I guess the one thing also is that I was kind of expecting that after a certain amount of years, in the job, you would kind of be like super knowledgeable and kind of know most of the things. Like I was kind of used to that more so in like the business roles where like you know once you kind of figure out the processes and procedures, like you're like pretty good. But it surprised me, even talking like with tech, there's always things changing, there's always like new things coming up, and I could ask someone who's been in the company for 10 years in something that is their domain a question and they won't know the answer. And that doesn't mean they're not good at the job. Like they're great at the job. It's just like this, the realm is just like so huge and the scope is so big, that there really is like no limit to, I guess, what you can know.
Awesome. That's cool. So let's think about the work that you've done. I would love to hear if there is a personal favorite project or something that you have worked on that just really stands out in your mind. Wendy, you look the most sure of an answer, so.
Sure, why not? So this was actually a project that I worked on. I was still actually in university, but in university I did like a work placement or co-op program. So I got to work for a company full time for 8 months, and they treated me like everyone else, like a full time employee. And I got to work on a project. I got to work on a video game project called The Hulk. It was, I don't know if you have any comic book fans here, but it was a Hulk video game. And yeah, what was so much fun about that project for me is highly collaborative. You're working with not just programmers, but designers and artists and sound people. And I think it just had a really good sort of kind of close knit. I don't know how to describe it. Just sort of like a culture. It's like we did everything together. We would eat breakfast together. We would work together. We play soccer at lunch, and then and so just a really tight knit group. And I have really really fond memories of that experience.
Awesome. Elaine, what's your favorite?
Yeah, one project comes to mind was one of the first I worked on when I started the company. So my team, I'm in a team called Service Enablement, and basically we do like a mishmash of like a lot of different things, but at the core of it, we essentially just build things that enable other teams within the company to do their jobs more efficiently, and faster. Sometimes it's, and a lot of times it means like automating some of the tasks that they do. And so the project that I worked on was whenever a customer, sees a bug, they'll contact our like our experts team, and then that gets tracked. And then when the bug is fixed, they used to have to manually email the person saying, hey, the bug you messaged us about, download the latest version, it's fixed there. And so I guess the little project that I worked on automated that process. So it really saved up a lot of time from the support team.
Awesome. Shivani, your favorite?
Mine would also be something I actually started working when I just joined as a software developer. It was my organization they had fired their vendor who had made up a big mess of some work they were supposed to do. So they brought it in house and they asked me to work on it. And I was new, I didn't know much, but I had all the support from the team. And then we were actually working on marketing campaigns for a tax software. So I had to, do the development, do the QA, do the BA work, try to get the requirements and trying to understand like what vendor messed up and how not to do it when I work on it. And we had like a tight timeline, but it was great. Like I got some, got to talk to some great people, learn something new, and we were able to make it in time. So that was a very a fulfilling project, I would say. And we didn't make any mess, and we were not in the news for the wrong reason, so that was good.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about people that may have helped you along your path. Was there anybody, a mentor that you had, or an inspiration, or just somebody that really helped you, do you think, get to where you are today?
I, I can start.
Mhm.
I think along, as you go through your career, you do meet quite a few people, and I think I've been fortunate to meet some great people at all the organizations I worked. But someone that I can remember clearly is when I started my first job, and how they one technically helping me what needs to be done, but also trying to explain me of make sure you have your work life balance, you don't have to kill yourself, you're a new person, that doesn't mean you have to stay like past 6 or whatever. Like
Mhm.
they would come to my desk at 5:15, like, why are you not going home? You need to go home. So and then making sure and guiding me through problems, or whenever I would go to them, how do I deal with this, tackle with this, or just giving me a very not an answer, but guiding me to get an answer, right? Just coaching me for that. So and I've been actually very fortunate that I've met some really great people at all the organizations that I've worked with, to whom I can just go and discuss. And sometimes they're my sounding board, sometimes they'll coach me to get an answer, sometimes they might give me an advice. So yeah, it's been great so far, and in all honesty, I try to do the same too. Whoever comes to me and want to help people, it's always great to learn from people's experience, right? So that's nice.
Awesome. Thank you. Elaine, somebody that inspired you or helped you out, mentored you.
Yeah, there's like not one specific person, but I mean, I have found mentors in my co-op when I was, still in school, and then even now, and it's just surprising how people are like always super nice, and um, I've always been able to find one or even more people at the workplace who have been really able to like support me, answer all the questions I have, give me advice. But yeah, before this, I mean, I like wish I would have been more proactive, but I didn't really like join any programs to like find mentors or anything. So if there's anyone watching, I would definitely recommend that. But didn't do that.
Thank you.
Oh.
Wendy.
Yeah, I have sort of a similar experience to both Shivani and Elaine. My first mentor was a mentor that my high school teacher set me up with, signed me up for the mentorship program through SWIST, the Society of Canadian Women in Science Technology, and that was really cool. At the time, I don't think I really understood like how it was like help me, I think, at the time, because I was like 16 and I was just trying to not be awkward. But I think later, as I was growing up, getting a little older, I'm like, oh yeah, that was like a really valuable experience to like meet another woman who was in science and technology, and I thought that was really cool. And then yeah, similarly, I didn't really proactively get a mentor through most of my career, at least until more recently. And yeah, I got involved with like a sort of like a meetup group. So it's a group of managers that get together. We get together once a month, and we do usually like talks, like someone will present an idea or something that they want to share with the group. And I've found through that group, I've been able to connect with other managers, and sometimes I have coffee with them. And I find those relationships really valuable. And I also, Shivani had mentioned coaching earlier. I've also discovered getting like a professional coach. So um, a friend of mine recommended a leadership coach. So it's kind of like a sports coach, but for work. And I really love meeting with a coach occasionally, just to like work through some stuff I'm going through at work, and they kind of help to. They ask you a lot of questions to sort of like clarify my own thinking. So, yeah, those have been really helpful for me more recently.
Awesome. Can I just clarify, when you say a coach, is that like something that has been set up through your organization, a coach within your organization, or is it an external thing that you've found?
Yeah. So this was an external thing that I found. Like a friend had recommended it to me, but some companies will sponsor that kind of thing for you. Like you might have like a little education budget at work. So work will help to pay for any sort of like professional development learning things. And sometimes coaching will fall into that category. But I've become such a huge fan of coaching these days that I really am hoping that my company will bring in, internal coaches. And I think a lot of companies are starting to offer that because they're seeing a lot of value in how they can help their employees. So,
I want to add to that. We have a wonderful coaching program here at Best Buy and amazing coaches. Like we have sessions with them and they're very, very helpful. And we've seen a big difference here.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that that's something that companies are hopefully working towards as well. That's great. Awesome. Okay, so obviously there's a lot of coding and programming that goes into our software development lives. Let's think back to 14-year-old selves. What is the best coding language you recommend starting to learn at age 14 if I want to get into software development?
Oh.
Well, I know like the most popular one now is Python, just because it is so easy to learn. And I think but I don't know, I think it kind of depends on your interest level. Like if you're already pretty serious into, doing this, then Python might like Python as a first language has its drawbacks because there are some features of it that don't kind of translate well to like other languages. Whereas if you start with something like Java first, then you can pick up Python really easily, but not like vice versa, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think if you're just kind of trying to gauge your interest and you're not quite sure yet, definitely start with Python. But if you're already like pretty serious, like I want to like learn this and get a head start, then maybe something like Java.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Shivani or Wendy? Do you agree with that?
I'm going back to my time and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I started with C and C++, but I think, if you want to just try something, it's nice to maybe just do a basic programming. You could do with C or C++ to just understand or gauge where your interests are. There's so many things in programming. A lot of people like the front end piece, right? Maybe web designing or or I would say, yeah, maybe if you are, you want to make things nice, you could also do some web designing if that's your interest, or C++ gives a a solid, I think, base of programming, and you could try very simple programs. And I'm just talking from my experience. What happens in technology is so many things come up that I probably don't even know what's happening nowadays.
yeah, I'll add to that. I think, like, firstly, I don't think you can go wrong learning any language, like, especially, you're just starting out. And there's so many of the concepts that are like transferable from one language to another. So I think most importantly is just like the practice of it. And it also depends like on your level, your current like level where you're at, and like maybe you have a specific interest. So like if you've never programmed before, like I really love the visual programming and the drag and drop. So websites like Scratch or code.org is a really good place to start. If you are interested in building like websites, then I would recommend like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are sort of your main three. And then if you're interested in, going a little deeper, then the couple of languages that Shivani and Elaine mentioned, like Java, C++, those are, start to get a little bit more advanced, but you can build then you can start to, build games if you want to, or something like that. So it really depends on your level and interest, but I would say any of the languages we've recommended or suggested today, just trying any of them, and then getting your practice in, and maybe try a couple even, and you might even start to see some of those similarities between them.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And so kind of related to that, let's say that I'm interested in software development. I'm not too sure. Do you have any recommendations of resources or things to try out to see if this is what I think it is, right? Any suggested resources or even just advice, things to try out? Yeah. Wendy, you look ready to answer. I'm going to go there.
So yeah, like I'll maybe just go over the couple that I mentioned earlier. Like if you've never programmed before, there's Scratch. I think is it scratch.mit.edu? I think that's the website. Yeah, or code.org if you've never coded before. If you are interested in starting like a text-based language, there's a website I think called Code Academy. That's good. It offers like these really sort of almost like mini courses, mini lessons that you can go through to see if it's something that you like. Those are the 2 or 3 that kind of come to mind for me as a starting point. Yeah. I'm curious what Shivani or Elaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of like free online tutorials, I would say, on Udemy or Coursera where you can and these are like 30 minutes, right? They'll actually teach you how to do Hello World or very simple programs. You can just watch the tutorial or watch a few to see like where your interest is headed to, and then they'll have different levels of courses. I would say that's a good start if you don't have any experience there. But again, those websites, or just go to, I know a friend of mine who has a little her daughter, she just went to wix.ca because she wanted to build her own wix.com, build her own website. So there are a lot of drag and drop things too, where you can just try your hands on to see how if that interests you, and then picking up some small courses, tutorials on Udemy or YouTube. Also there's some great content nowadays. That's the best part, right? Anything you want to learn, you go on YouTube, you'll have like the best content out there.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Elaine, what kind of resources would you point towards?
Yeah, I just want to kind of respond to what Shivani said. I don't think there's a day that goes by without me going on YouTube at some point or another to like look at something. But yeah, I also agree with like the tutorials and the courses because like at least for me in the beginning when you try to learn something new, I get pretty overwhelmed with like where to start. And so in that aspect, like I really love structured learning where like my hand is being held and like for every step. And so I would recommend like either a free tutorial on YouTube, or I actually used a lot of Udemy and I really like it. When they're on sale, they're like $12, so it's totally worth it. And they take you through like a series of projects. So, after a certain while, you actually have something that, you followed along with and you've built like from scratch. So it's, I guess, a little bit more rewarding that way. So, yeah, so I would definitely recommend checking out a tutorial or like, I guess, finding out what you want to build and then finding a tutorial based on that.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have time for maybe one more question for all of us to answer. And let's talk a little bit about the education path that you take to get there. Bachelor's, is there master's, co-ops? What did you do and what is required to go forward into this career? Who am I going to pick on?
I can start. So I had a very structured process. I would say I did my computer engineering. Like in my high school, I took computer classes, and then I liked it. So I went and did my computer engineering, and I then went and did my master's in computer science. But having said that, that's not the only way to go. You can always take up courses, take up like small, go to Udemy again, and there's a lot you can self learn. You don't necessarily have to go to school or college for that. If that's an option and if you can do it, that's great. But if you are really interested, you've already picked up your major, or you're in something else and you want to try, you can always do some courses on the side by yourself, or there are a lot of academies who teach you on those a lot of these languages as well. So I think by at the point when you know what you want to do, I think that's the most important thing, to understand like what interests you the best. After you know that, I think there are a ton of options to actually excel and learn that and excel in those.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Wendy.
Yeah, I had kind of a similar path in the beginning as Shivani. So I also got my degree in computer engineering at a university. While I was in university, yeah, I mentioned I did a work placement or co-op program, so I could get some work experience. And then from there, I went to work. But about, I don't know, it was about 8 years into my career, and I decided to take a break. And during that break, I went back to school. I did I think it was a 1 year program that helped me to actually learn how to set up my own business, my own website, and my own business. So I did that for a little bit. And then partway through that, I decided that I wanted to maybe go back into technology. But as I mentioned before, I was doing video game development when I first started out in my career. And I wanted to transition into web development, and I didn't have any of those skills. So what I did was I actually enrolled in a 3-month web development boot camp, which is kind of popular these days. So it's sort of like an accelerated learning program, kind of intense, but you're done in 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, you kind of have all the skills and you check all the boxes to sort of get an entry level or intermediate kind of level gig. So yeah, that's what I did. I'm kind of an addict to school. So even now I've been taking courses. When I started going into management, I did a human resources management program so I could learn about what goes into managing and into like growing people. And currently I'm also getting a certification for being a coach. So I'm just sort of I'm sort of an addict when it comes to structured learning and education programs. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And yeah, Eileen.
Yeah, so I started with a bachelor in business administration, which is totally unrelated. But then after 4 years working my role, I went back to school for computer programming, but I didn't want to take a 4-year program again since I kind of already have done school. So I wanted to start making money sooner rather than later. And so I did a 2-year diploma at a college. And I think that was a pretty good option looking back. And also kind of similar to Wendy, like if I'm not learning something, I kind of feel a bit restless. So my company is really awesome in that they're really generous in their learning and development fund. So I'm always taking like one certification or another. And yeah.
Awesome. So thank you. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of variety in the educational path you can take to get into a software developing career. So we're kind of wrapping up on our time here. Thank you all so much for joining us. So I do want to just take a moment, see if there's maybe any last thoughts that are going to pop into the comments here. But we are going to stop for a bio break, and there is a bit of time for you to explore our interactive virtual booths. You can access these booths through the exhibit hall button on the top of the page in Project Board. Our next session is going to start at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So be sure to take some time and pick out where you are headed next. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.